In the twilight shadows of Terra Nova's towering crimson forests, Captain Marcus Weldon watched a viper wolf pack circle a wounded Gronther. The Gronther, a behemoth with tusks sharp as obsidian spears, bellowed in defiance, its blood seeping into the mossy earth. Here, even the prey was formidable. Marcus knew that life on Terra Nova was not about living, it was about surviving. This was the essence of his world, a planet where only the fierce and the cunning thrived. Marcus turned away from the natural hunt, his mind on a predator of a different kind. Since dawn, seismic sensors had been tripping, not due to the planet's frequent quakes, but from something far more sinister. Covert operations were underway, machines burrowing into the rich veins of Terra Nova, extracting rare ores without consent. This breach, this violation of his home, ignited a fierce resolve in Marcus. As the leader of the Deathworlder Corps, he was not just a guardian of people, he was a protector of the planet itself. The day had begun with the harsh cries of the dawn howlers, the sky streaking with the vibrant colors of the rising twin suns. By midday, Marcus had gathered his unit, a diverse group of hardened men and women, each a survivor of Terra Nova's brutal embrace. They stood in the training yard, the air thick with humidity, their focus absolute as Marcus laid out the day's drills. Yet as they practiced, Marcus's communicator buzzed relentlessly. Reports flooded in, unusual machinery sightings, unfamiliar heat signatures, and disrupted wildlife migrations. Each report a thread in a tapestry of intrusion. Assembling his team, Marcus displayed the images captured by recon drones, colossal diggers etching scars into unspoiled landscapes, guarded by drones with the insignia of a distant star system. "Looks like we've got company." Marcus grunted, his voice tinged with a rare anger, as he met the steely gazes of his corps. "Unknown forces are mining our land. They're stealing from us, thinking we're too primitive to notice or too weak to respond. They're wrong. We'll show them what happens when you corner a beast in its den." The Corps rallied to his call, their response a unified roar of approval. These were no ordinary soldiers, they were Deathworlders, each trained to turn the lethal forces of their planet into weapons against any foe. As Marcus led his team through the dense underbrush toward the nearest mining site, the sounds of Terra Nova played a symphony of the wild, a reminder of the raw, untamed power at their disposal. The land was alive, and under its canopy, they moved as shadows, unseen, unheard, but ever present. Approaching the site, the first thing Marcus noticed was the silence. No birdsong, no rustle of small creatures, the miners had scared them off. Cloaked in the foliage, Marcus surveyed the area. Automated drills pounded into the earth, disrupting the ancient soil, while robotic sentries patrolled the perimeter. "On my mark," Marcus whispered, his eyes narrowing as he picked his target. This was his world, his fight. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Marcus and his Deathworlder Corps prepared to strike, to remind all who might watch that Terra Nova belonged to its children. The story had begun, but the battle, this fight for their home, was just awakening. Under the cover of Terra Nova's dense foliage, the first engagement was swift and fierce. Captain Marcus Weldon and his Deathworlder Corps, cloaked by the natural camouflage of their environment, launched a surprise attack on the unsuspecting mining drones. With precision and a ferocity born of necessity, they disabled the machines, their actions as silent as the falling night. Each disabled drone was a testament to their resolve, a small victory in the shadow of a looming conflict. As the last drone thudded to the ground, Marcus surveyed the scene with a critical eye. The mining site, now quiet, was a scar on the landscape, its machinery idle and lights dimmed. "Collect what intel you can," he ordered his team, his voice low. "We need to know who's behind this and what they're after." Meanwhile, light years away on Cygnus III, Admiral Zyrak stood before a large holographic display, his cold eyes watching the progress of his remote mining operations. The reports of disrupted activities caused a rare frown to crease his usually impassive features. "Increase the defenses, send more drones," he commanded his subordinates. "The resources of Terra Nova are crucial to our plans. We cannot afford delays. Back on Terra Nova, as Marcus's team gathered data from the disabled machinery, they uncovered the insignia of Cygnus Thur, a technologically advanced civilization known for its expansive military and colonial ambitions. Cygnus Thur, Marcus muttered, the name tasting like poison on his lips. They underestimate the fury of a death world. Determined to confront this threat head-on, Marcus initiated a series of covert communications with the Galactic Council, seeking to expose the unauthorized exploitation and rally support. His messages were a blend of diplomatic caution and raw, undeniable evidence of the violations occurring on Terra Nova. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, the news of conflict on Terra Nova stirred unease. Representatives from various planets debated fiercely. Some viewed the Deathworlders as primitive and unworthy of intervention, while others argued for upholding the Council's protective decrees. As Marcus awaited the Council's decision, he strengthened his defenses, knowing well that diplomacy might fail and lead to war. He organized training sessions, focusing on guerrilla warfare and survival tactics that utilized the planet's harsh conditions. We are the children of Terra Nova, he reminded his troops during a dusk assembly. This planet forged us, and together we will defend it. The night skies of Terra Nova, usually a tapestry of glowing flora and nocturnal calls, were now tense with the silence of a world bracing for battle. Marcus spent these hours strategizing, often found poring over maps and satellite images, planning for every possible scenario. His resolve hardened when the Council's response arrived, a politically cautious statement that promised to investigate, but stopped short of immediate action. Marcus's disappointment was palpable, but not unexpected. It seems we stand alone, he told his closest lieutenants. So be it. We've faced the darkness of space and the wilds of our world. We can face this too. Under the twin moons of Terra Nova, as the first hints of dawn colored the horizon, Marcus and his corps prepared for what was to come. They fortified their positions, set surveillance throughout the vulnerable areas, and readied themselves for a conflict that would determine the fate of their world. In this charged atmosphere, Marcus's leadership was a beacon, a steady, unyielding force that inspired courage and fierce loyalty in his people. As Terra Nova rotated slowly, bringing the first light of dawn, it found its defenders united, ready to protect their home against the encroaching shadow of war. As the first rays of dawn pierced the dense canopy of Terra Nova, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Captain Marcus Weldon convened an urgent meeting with his senior officers in the command center, a reinforced structure nestled within a cliffside, its entrance cleverly concealed by cascading vines. The room buzzed with a tense energy as data from overnight surveillance streamed in, confirming their fears. More mining machines, larger and more fortified than before, had been deployed overnight. Marcus stood before a large holographic map, his jaw set firm, his eyes scanning the room. The situation is escalating faster than anticipated, he began, his voice carrying a gravitas born of many battles fought and won. Cygnus Thur's forces are adapting to our tactics. It's time we adapt as well and reach out for allies. Isolation may no longer be viable. His team exchanged glances, the weight of the decision palpable in the air. Marcus's second-in-command, Lieutenant Jasper Reed, a native of Terra Nova known for his sharp wit and sharper shooting skills, was the first to break the silence. We have potential allies among the Galactic Council, he suggested. There are those who owe us for past deeds, and others who share a common interest in curbing Cygnus Thur's expansion. Marcus nodded, his mind racing through potential diplomatic channels and alliances. Prepare a communication packet, he instructed. Summarize our situation and our need for support. Highlight our willingness to collaborate for mutual benefits. Jasper, you'll spearhead this initiative. Time is of the essence. As Jasper set to work, Marcus turned his attention back to the immediate threat. The continuous mining not only threatened their planet's ecological balance, but also its very sovereignty. Marcus's strategy evolved from defensive skirmishes to planning a significant counteroffensive. We need to strike at their main mining operations. A show of strength, he asserted, plotting points on the map where their intelligence suggested the bulk of the mining machinery was concentrated. The planning session was interrupted by an urgent message from a Galactic Council envoy, Ambassador Sylvia Knox, a seasoned diplomat from the planet Altair, known for her fairness and strong advocacy for planetary rights. Captain Weldon, I've been briefed on your situation. The Council is concerned but divided. I am coming to Terra Nova to see the situation firsthand and provide whatever diplomatic assistance I can offer. Her message conveyed a tone of sincere commitment. Marcus welcomed this development, knowing that having an influential member of the Council on the ground could bolster their position significantly. Preparations were made to receive the ambassador under high security, ensuring her visit would not be jeopardized by Cygnus Thur's ongoing aggression. Ambassador Knox arrived under the escort of Terra Nova's elite aerial guards, her shuttle gliding through the towering storm clouds that gave the Helix Nebula its nickname. Marcus greeted her personally at the landing platform, the wind tugging at their cloaks as they exchanged formalities. I appreciate your swift response, Ambassador, Marcus said as they walked towards the command center, passing through natural rock formations and bioluminescent plants native to Terra Nova. I must see the truth for myself, Captain, Knox replied, her eyes taking in the rugged beauty and visible scars of the recent conflicts. The Council must not make decisions in ignorance. Over the next few days, Marcus and his team provided Knox with detailed briefings, escorted her to view the damaged ecosystems, and presented evidence of Cygnus Thur's breaches of interstellar law. Moved by the resilience of the Terra Novans and the blatant disregard shown by the invaders, Knox promised to push for immediate Council action. Meanwhile, Marcus solidified his plans for the counteroffensive. It was a gamble, but with the planet's future at stake, a bold move was necessary to shift the balance of power. Under the cover of night, using the dense fog banks that rolled in from the eastern seas, Marcus's forces moved into position, ready to launch a strike that would send a clear message to their adversaries. Terra Nova would not fall without a fight. As the dense mists of Terra Nova's eastern seas rolled in, shrouding the landscape in a thick, damp veil, Captain Marcus Weldon and his Deathworlder Corps moved with silent precision. They were phantoms in the fog, each step carefully measured to make no sound, each breath controlled to leave the air undisturbed. The target was the primary mining site of Cygnus Thur, a massive operation that had gouged a wound deep in the verdant flesh of the planet. The air was thick with moisture, droplets clinging to the leaves and dripping onto the undergrowth below, mirroring the tension that clung to the soldiers as they advanced. Marcus led the team, his senses heightened, every part of him attuned to the environment. He could smell the acrid scent of the mined ores, a stark contrast to the earthy petrichor that usually filled the air after a rain. Up ahead, the dark outline of the mining site loomed through the mist, its perimeter lights a dull glow against the dense fog. Marcus raised his hand, signaling a halt. He surveyed the area with night vision optics. The site was heavily fortified, automated sentries patrolling the boundaries, their movements programmed and predictable. It was a fortress, but Marcus knew even fortresses had weaknesses. Delta Team, you're on sentry duty. Take them out quietly, Marcus whispered into his comlink, his voice barely audible. Gamma, you're with me. We're going for the central control unit. Silently, Delta Team fanned out, their movements ghost-like as they circumnavigated the sentries, taking advantage of blind spots in the noise-muffling fog. One by one, the sentries were disabled, their systems short-circuited with precise controlled bursts of electromagnetic pulses. Marcus, leading Gamma Team, moved towards the heart of the mining site. The central control unit was housed in a dome-shaped structure, its metallic surface slick with condensation. Using a portable hacker module, they bypassed the security locks, gaining entry with a soft hiss as the door slid open. Inside, the control unit was a hive of activity, screens blinking with data, lights flashing in steady rhythms. Marcus approached the main console, inserting another device that began to download critical data. We need their plans, their schedules, everything. It's time we turn their own weapons against them, he muttered, watching as the progress bar on the device filled rapidly. Outside, the rest of Gamma Team held position, their eyes scanning the mist for any sign of movement, their weapons ready. The tension was palpable, every soldier aware that the success of this mission could significantly turn the tide in their favor. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the sharp whine of an alarm. "They know we're here," Marcus said, his voice calm despite the surge of adrenaline. "Finish the download. We move out in 2 minutes, no matter what." The data transfer completed just as the first of Cygnus Thur's reinforcements arrived, their figures emerging from the fog, weapons drawn. "Now," Marcus yelled, and Gamma Team sprang into action, unleashing a barrage of suppressive fire as they retreated. The fight back to their extraction point was fierce and fraught with peril. Marcus and his team moved with a fluidity that spoke of intense training and innate understanding of their home terrain. They used the fog, the trees, even the very soil they fought on to their advantage, turning the environment into an ally against the intruders. As they finally broke through the perimeter, reaching the cover of the dense forest, Marcus took a moment to look back at the chaos they had left behind. Fires burned where some of their explosives had found critical infrastructure, sending plumes of smoke into the early morning sky. Breathing heavily, his body aching but adrenaline still coursing through his veins, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. They had struck a significant blow this night, one that would surely make Cygnus Thurs rethink their invasion strategy. Back at the command center, as reports of their successful sabotage and data theft filled the room, a new sense of hope ignited among the Terra Novans. With the critical information they had secured, they could anticipate the enemy's moves, exploit their weaknesses, and most importantly, protect their beloved planet. The tide was turning, and Marcus Weldon, with the fierce and loyal Deathworlder Corps at his side, was ready to ride the wave. The pre-dawn hours on Terra Nova were a symphony of whispered winds and the distant roars of predatory night creatures. But on this particular morning, the natural chorus was accompanied by the low hum of preparations as Captain Marcus Weldon and his Deathworlder Corps readied themselves for the pivotal battle that would decide their planet's fate. The command center was alive with activity. Maps of the region were displayed on every surface, showing the strategic locations Marcus planned to target. With the information they had stolen from the mining site, they now knew the exact layout of Cygnus Thuri's operations, including the vulnerabilities in their supply lines and the location of their command hub. Marcus stood before his team, his presence commanding and resolute. "Today, we defend our home not just by surviving, but by taking the fight to our enemy's door," he declared, his voice firm and inspiring. "We know their plans, we know their weaknesses. We strike hard, we strike fast, and we do not yield until our land is free from their grasp." As the first light of dawn tinted the sky with streaks of orange and purple, the Deathworlder Corps moved out, their vehicles and foot soldiers forming a silent convoy that snaked through the dense forests and rugged terrain that were second nature to them. The main target was the central command hub of Cygnus Third, a heavily fortified structure located in a valley that had once been a thriving ecosystem before the miners had turned it into an industrial wasteland. Marcus's plan was bold and straightforward, a three-pronged attack designed to overwhelm the enemy's defenses and cripple their ability to coordinate their forces. To the north, a contingent led by Lieutenant Jasper Reed would initiate a diversionary strike, drawing the enemy's attention and forces away from the main target. Meanwhile, Marcus would lead the main assault team directly into the heart of the enemy's command center, using the chaos sown by Jasper's team as cover. The southern flank was tasked with cutting off reinforcements and escape routes, effectively trapping Cygnus Thur's forces within their own base. This task fell to Sergeant Lena Cruz, a veteran sharpshooter, whose keen instincts and unwavering resolve had saved her team more than once. The assault commenced at the break of dawn. Jasper's team struck first, their explosives detonating in a series of controlled blasts that shook the ground and sent plumes of dirt and debris into the air. As expected, this drew the bulk of the enemy's forces northward, their vehicles kicking up clouds of dust as they moved to engage what they believed was the main attack. With the enemy distracted, Marcus led his team into the valley, their approach covered by the dense morning fog that lay like a blanket over the ground. They moved quickly and quietly, reaching the outer defenses of the command hub before the alarm could be raised. The battle that ensued was fierce and brutal. Marcus's team breached the perimeter, engaging Cygnus Thur's soldiers in close-quarters combat. Every member of the Deathworlder Corps fought with a ferocity that spoke of their deep connection to the land they were defending. Meanwhile, Lena's team successfully cut off the enemy's reinforcements, their expertly placed sniper fire and explosive traps halting any attempt to retreat or reinforce the central hub. Inside the command center, Marcus fought his way to the heart of the building, where he confronted the Cygnus Third commander. The confrontation was intense, a physical and ideological battle between the invader and the native defender. With a combination of strategic combat and sheer willpower, Marcus overpowered the commander, securing the control room and effectively cutting off the head of the snake. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its light over a battlefield strewn with the remnants of the morning's conflict, it was clear that the Deathworlder Corps had achieved a decisive victory. The enemy's command hub was captured, their operations disrupted, and their morale shattered. Exhausted but triumphant, Marcus stood amidst his victorious team, their faces smeared with dirt and sweat, but alight with the joy of hard-won freedom. "Today we showed them what it means to fight for our home," he said, his voice echoing over the field. Today Terra Nova answered the call, and the universe indeed trembled. The great assault was over, but the battle for Terra Nova's future was just beginning. As the dust settled on the scarred battlegrounds of Terra Nova, the morning light revealed a landscape transformed by the ferocity of battle, yet underscored by a palpable sense of victory. Captain Marcus Weldon surveyed the aftermath, his eyes tracing the contours of the land that had borne witness to such monumental strife. The central command hub of Cygnus Third, once a stark symbol of alien dominance, now stood as a testament to the resilience and courage of the Deathworlders. In the quiet aftermath, Marcus convened with his lieutenants and the remaining commanders of the Cygnus Third forces, now prisoners of war. Under the shade of Terra Nova's towering silver-leaf trees, they negotiated the terms of surrender. The discussions were tense but ultimately fruitful. The enemy commanders, recognizing the futility of further resistance, agreed to a complete withdrawal from Terra Nova. With the terms settled, Marcus's attention turned to the broader implications of their victory. The battle for Terra Nova had drawn the eyes of the Galactic Council, and many of its members had been swayed by the valor and determination of the Deathworlders. Ambassador Sylvia Knox, instrumental in rallying support, approached Marcus as the formalities concluded. "Captain Weldon, your actions have not only secured the sovereignty of Terra Nova, but also demonstrated the vital importance of respecting the rights of all sentient beings, regardless of their technological prowess," Knox said, her voice imbued with respect. "The Council is prepared to offer Terra Nova enhanced protections and a voice within our assemblies." Marcus nodded, appreciating the gravity of her words. "Thank you, Ambassador. We seek not just security for our world, but also respect and cooperation among the stars," he responded, his gaze steady. This was a new beginning for Terra Nova, a chance to emerge from isolation and take its place on the galactic stage. The days that followed were a blur of activity. As the Cygnus Third forces dismantled their installations and prepared for departure, Terra Nova began the arduous process of healing. Marcus led efforts to restore the damaged ecosystems, working alongside environmental specialists to replant, rebuild, and rejuvenate the ravaged landscapes. Meanwhile, celebrations erupted across the planet, from the bustling market towns to the secluded mountain villages. The people of Terra Nova, from the rugged highlanders to the desert nomads, celebrated their planet's liberation with music, dance, and storytelling. Under the light of twin moons, they shared tales of the battle, immortalizing the courage of their warriors and the strategic genius of their leaders. But for Marcus, The true victory lay in the quiet moments after the revelry had faded. Walking through the recovering wildlands, he felt a deep connection to the planet that had shaped him. The air was fresh, filled with the scents of blooming night flowers and the tangy zest of citrus leaves, an olfactory reminder that life on Terra Nova was resilient, capable of enduring and thriving even after the harshest storms. One evening, as the sun set in a spectacular display of crimson and gold, Marcus stood on a cliff overlooking the verdant basin, where much of the battle had taken place. Beside him was Lieutenant Jasper Reed, his steadfast companion throughout the conflict. "We've done something remarkable, Jasper," Marcus mused, his voice a mix of weariness and pride. "We did, Captain," Jasper agreed, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. "But there's more to do." "There always is," Marcus smiled, his eyes on the horizon. "Then we'll be ready. Terra Nova has answered the call, and we will again as many times as necessary." As night fell, and the stars began their celestial dance, Marcus felt a profound peace settle over him. Terra Nova was safe, its people united, and their place in the galaxy assured. The battles ahead would be different, perhaps diplomatic or environmental, but they would face them together, as a planet reborn from the fires of conflict.